So it's Monday, which means Saturday Night Fever and Sunday Brunch are both supposed to have wiped out your collective memory of stuff that happened late in the day on Friday. But today, on this Monday, we have a fresh Obama administration Friday news dump story to deliberately not ignore. Our Obama Friday news dump archive so far includes the news that the end of the Iraq War will involve up to 50,000 residual U.S. forces. It includes the disclosure forms that show top economic advisor Larry Summers made millions from the hedge fund industry. It includes the legal filing showing that the new administration would continue the argument advanced by the Bush administration that prisoners being held indefinitely at Bagram Air Base in Afghanistan should not have the right to challenge their imprisonment in a court. A federal judge disagreed with the administration's case about Bagram, ruling that prisoners arrested outside Afghanistan and brought to Bagram to be imprisoned, the judge said that those prisoners could challenge their imprisonment in court. And now, enter your newest Obama Friday news dump. On Friday, on Good Friday, on the Friday before Easter, the Obama administration appealed the judge's decision on Bagram, which means the new administration wants to be able to arrest someone in one country, take them to a prison in another country, and never let them argue in front of a judge that they don't belong in prison in the first place. Why is this a big deal? Well, I'll let a guy who's been really smart on this subject do the explaining.
The issue of habeas corpus is not designed to free prisoners. What it's designed to do is make sure that prisoners who are being held have at least one shot at saying, I'm being held wrongly. The reason we set up Guantanamo is because the administration wanted to set up a black hole where there was no accountability whatsoever.
Right. But wait a minute. Everything that was wrong with Guantanamo is somehow okay at Bagram? Candidate and Senator Barack Obama, who you just saw in that clip, meet President Obama, whose administration has filed to keep habeas rights from the prisoners at Bagram. President Obama does, of course, get some Constitution points for closing Guantanamo, for banning torture. Big, important cleanup after the Bush-era decisions. But it does seem like the list of issues Mr. Obama is following Mr. Bush on is getting sort of long, particularly on Friday nights. Joining us now is Michael Isikoff, MSNBC contributor and investigative correspondent for Newsweek magazine. Mr. Isikoff, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Great to be with you, Rachel, and an honor to be your Friday night dumpster diver, by the way.
Well, first disabuse me of my naivete and tell me that I never should have expected that the Obama administration would be any different about the Friday news dump thing.
No, that's the standard Washington playbook, and there's like no absolute continuity from administration to administration when you got awkward news delivered on Fridays.
Well, fair enough. I'm still disappointed. I know I shouldn't be. In terms of this decision on Bagram to try to keep habeas corpus rights from third country prisoners, not Afghan, not American prisoners, but third country prisoners brought to Bagram, is this consistent with some of the other decisions that seem that we have seen from the administration that don't exactly match with candidate Obama's positions?
This was a reasonably significant one. The judicial ruling that says that these prisoners are entitled to challenge their detention in federal court came from Judge John Bates, a Bush appointee who has taken a pretty firm line saying, look, the Supreme Court has said detainees at Guantanamo have these rights. There's no reason that these detainees in Bagram shouldn't. In particular, the detainees at issue here are not people who were scooped up in the battlefield in Afghanistan. One of them was scooped up by U.S. security forces in Thailand, another in Dubai. Then they're flown to Bagram and kept there since 2002. So you've had something like 7 years these guys have been at Bagram and had no opportunity to challenge the U.S. government's contention that they are bad guys affiliated with al-Qaeda.
Do we have any idea how many prisoners, roughly, even a ballpark number we're talking about, would be affected by this narrow ruling?
Well, look, Judge Bates said that he understands that when you're talking about people in Afghanistan, detainees in Afghanistan, yes, if they're scooped up on the battlefield, Bagram is in Afghanistan. I'm not going to interfere with that. But when you're flying people around from all over the globe to Bagram, that's no different than flying them to Guantanamo. And of course, if the current U.S. policy is allowed to stand, there's nothing to prevent the Obama administration from taking all those detainees at Guantanamo and simply flying them to Bagram and keeping them there. So you'll have a new Gitmo in Afghanistan rather than in Cuba.
One that's even harder to get access to. Mike, I know the next big test for the president is going to come on Thursday when the administration will announce whether or not it's going to declassify a set of Bush-era memos on interrogation techniques and torture. What do we know is in these memos, and what's at stake here in this decision?
A lot is at stake in this one. This is a key test of the Obama administration on transparency. Eric Holder, the Attorney General, and Greg Craig, the White House counsel, have signed off on release of these memos. These are the Justice Department memos that specifically lay out the enhanced interrogation techniques like waterboarding and other techniques that can be used against, that were approved by the Bush White House War Council for use against high-value detainees. All the controversy about torture, about cruel and inhumane treatment of detainees revolves around what was done to this subset of detainees and what specifically was done. Until now, all that has been classified. Although a lot has been come out, there's been no full public accounting of it. No, administration officials from both administrations have been able to avoid talking about it on the grounds like that it's classified, we can't talk about it. So Holder and Craig have recommended declassification. Let it all out. Let the public see exactly what was done. The intelligence community has fought back fiercely, saying this would create huge problems for the our cooperation with foreign intelligence services. It could produce huge reactions around the Arab world, and have tried mightily to keep these things on a lid. One thing that's worth pointing out is some of the top people at the CIA were involved in these interrogations. So a lot is riding on that decision on Thursday.
We're going to know on Thursday which side of those, which side is going to win that huge debate. Very, very, very edge of your seat stuff. Michael Isikoff, MSNBC contributor, investigative correspondent for Newsweek. Invaluable to have you on the show, Michael. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel.